Good morning. Okay, I'm not going to wait another hour and 11 minutes. I've been up since uh, about 2:45, and I was awake for at least a half an hour to 45 minutes longer than that. Anyway, I wasn't sure what to talk about this morning, even after my meditation, but when I came to the computer, I felt that one of the more significant things I could talk about is this: a sign of change, Palestine admitted to UN. Yes, the US, Canada, Israel, the Czech Republic, Panama, and 4 Pacific Island nations controlled by the US voted no. But the vast majority of nations voted to admit Palestine as a non-member observer state, a huge step toward full recognition. This is a visible sign of the changes that are occurring as the big date draws ever so close. We continue to watch for more changes as the energies shift towards truth and justice, and eventually peace on earth. Just prior to beginning this video, I Googled the news reports, and on Fox News they said that the vote was actually 138-9 with 41 abstentions. Now, I didn't realize until just the moment before beginning this video that there were 41 abstentions, and I'd like to see that list too. But what interests me in the fact that so many nations voted to recognize Palestine and give them at least a voice in the UN, I thought was really important. In the past, Israel and the United States and the so-called Western world has economically manipulated the vote by blackmailing countries in the third world to vote against Palestine in order to keep them from gaining worldwide recognition, which every person in the world and all the peoples of the world need to be recognized. We need to acknowledge one another. We need to recognize the rights of one another. Now, I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to pretend that Israel all of a sudden is going to recognize the rights of the people living in the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem. I'm not going to imply that at all, because Israel remains, as the United States does, and I usually don't even lump Canada into that, but these are terrorist nations that spread terrorism around the world. Now, I know a lot of people may not like hearing that, and others may say, well, it's about time somebody's telling the truth. But we are, through economic policies and military intervention, as well as the intervention by our so-called intelligence agencies around the world, we have long manipulated world politics and world economies, not for the benefit of the world, not for the benefit of the people living on Earth, but again for the benefit of the banking cabal and the rich interests that want to protect their right to plunder and steal and wreak havoc on the world wherever people are courageous enough to stand up and assert their rights and tell the truth. Asserting rights is an extremely important part of this awakening process, and it needs to happen in the geopolitical economic world that we live in, because that's where the changes have to be if we are to really bring about a visible and lasting peace and bring about the creation of a new renaissance with free energy and technologies that have long been suppressed in support of the oil industry, which has also been a measure of control, or a vehicle used to control the nation by keeping everybody bound to the oil industry. The oil industry is an industry that has to decrease if peace is to increase upon the planet. But certainly the Israeli and Palestinian conflict has been at the center of world injustice, as the Israelis have since 1948 run over the rights of Palestinian people, forcing them out of their homes, off their lands. They continue to do that in the West Bank. They're planning, according to something that I looked at here, 300 new settlements on the West Bank. I mean, the insanity of this is beyond belief in a world that we're supposed to be a reasonable society. This is supposed to be the advanced world, and we continue to use coercion and violence against people and their natural rights. This has to change, folks. This has to change. Now, the other day, on Thursday night, I believe it was, I listened to the Poof report that had been filmed, or recorded rather, in October, but it wasn't allowed to be released until that date. And then within hours of its release, it was just as rapidly pulled off the internet and no longer able to listen to it. But Poof reported, among other things, that for 2 years the U.S. Supreme Court has been working to give people back their rights and to diminish the power of the United States of America Corporation. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, if that's true, and Poof reports a lot of things that are hard to verify because they're, quote, insider information that he's getting, and others, he talked about Drake, and he talked about Cobra, and he talked about Benjamin Fulford, and he talked about the Dragon Society that really runs the world. The White Dragon Society is really in control. He talked about the conflict that's going on between the Rothschild part of the Illuminati and the Rockefeller branch of the Illuminati, and the fact that that both of them are diminishing the Bush cabal influence, which, if true, would be a wonderful thing. But the idea that the Supreme Court is working to reverse the criminality of the U.S. corporation, and I don't think he worded it exactly like that. I don't remember how he worded it. I went back to listen to it the next day because I had listened to it just prior to going to sleep, and I might have even fallen asleep for the last 15 or so minutes of the recording. But I did get to hear most of it for sure, and my friend Claudia got to watch it all, and she took notes and reported on it at our Friday night meeting on what he had said, which I wish I had taken notes, but I was laying in bed as I listened. Anyway, what really jumped out at me is the reminder of the Bond versus the U.S. unanimous Supreme Court decision in June of 2011, which I reported in a video in July 2011. It's my second most popular video at over 18,000 views back in July. But Bond versus the U.S. was a case that, to me, didn't seem like it was all that important a case. And yet the Supreme Court unanimously chose to throw some caveats in there at the end, reestablishing and reaffirming state sovereignty and, listen, individual sovereignty, that our rights are inviolate, and when laws are passed that violate our rights, those laws are null and void. I mean, this was not something from the 19th century or even earlier in the 20th century. This is 2011, June 2011, by the United States Supreme Court. And Poof also reported that that there are numerous papers that have been filed with the World Court in The Hague, or The Hague, however you pronounce it, which are filed for the purpose of bringing justice in the case of high-level criminality around the world. We know that, what's his name, the fellow from Canada who has the crimes against the lawsuit against the church, the Vatican, and against the various governments for the child abuse and the genocide of the Native American population in Canada primarily. But this stuff has been going on since colonial times, and people are becoming aware. I'm so glad for the internet and for the things that are being spread on the internet, that people are many times for the first time becoming aware of things that the mainstream media has worked diligently to hide from the knowledge of the people. And to hear Zbigniew Brzezinski talk recently in Poland about the fact that the awakening is accelerating at a pace that will prevent the New World Order from ever happening, according to the plans that Brzezinski and others laid in their Agenda 21 and some of the other things. These, to me, are absolutely wonderful signs that 2012 and the energies that are being downloaded upon this planet from our solar system and probably from the cosmos itself are taking root in the consciousness of humanity, which is a very, very good indication of the changes that are undergoing in the conscious awareness of humankind. We must protect the rights of everyone. Hear me, excluding no one. Peace can only happen when there is a consensus among people. Consensus does not mean total agreement. Consensus only means that we agree to give up violence, for example, that we agree to stop defrauding people of their rights, that we agree together that peace and compassion are more important than war and competition. When we agree together on these things, then we can bring these changes into manifestation upon the earth, and we can establish what might ultimately be the kingdom of heaven on earth, where we can have the new Renaissance, where we can have a world where money becomes an instrument of good, an instrument of blessing, something that is no longer used for political advantage and to commit crimes and to defraud people of that which is our right by birth, by birthright, by creation itself, nature's God endowing us with unalienable rights or unalienable rights, whichever way you choose to pronounce it. They both work for me. But these things are coming about and happening in our world. And I still look for more visible extraterrestrial intervention. I still look for the manifestation of spiritual realities to impinge more and more heavily upon our world. I won't be surprised if there's a period of darkness. I absolutely expect there to be a bank shutdown for a period of time as the monetary system is readjusted. That was one of the things in the Poof report, that there will be, and many others are reporting, the fiscal cliff. There's going to be a massive shift in the world economies. The Federal Reserve dollar is going to be virtually worthless, except in the United States for the people. It will be exchanged one for one with a commodity-backed or gold-backed currency or a currency backed by actual something that's supposedly actually of value. But again, even gold being something of natural value is a consensus. It exists because we agree it does. Money doesn't have any value except as a consensus tool. And the consensus of the world is more and more toward admitting people like nations like Palestine to the United Nations and giving them a voice and recognizing that they have rights. This is such a critical and important step. And it's an important indicator of the changes that are going on that are going to be very, very good for us. So folks, I want you to know that I am paying attention to the best of my ability, and I'm only one. But this attention is being focused more and more around the planet as people awaken and as the changes that we've longed for a long time become more manifest in our world, so that our reality will be a more compassionate and less competitive world, and certainly a world where truth is finally has a voice and is not stopped by those who wish to control everything. Thank you for listening, and Godspeed. Namaste.